As tensions flare in the Middle East, a new crisis is brewing back home. America's oil safety net is running on fumes. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which exists to protect us from oil shocks like the one we've got right now, currently holds just 402 million barrels. That's barely half of its full capacity.
Why is it half empty? Because Joe Biden, he decided to take it down to 358 million barrels a day. He spent years treating it like his personal ATM to try to artificially lower gasoline prices for his own political gain. The Department of Energy warning that rebuilding the reserve could cost $20 billion, but so far has only asked Congress for about 100,000.
Here to react is Committee to Unleash Prosperity co-founder and former Trump economic advisor, Steve Moore. Steve, always good to see you. How concerned are you about where the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is right now, given what's happening in the world?
Well, it's just infuriating that they were. Look, Biden is the first president who's ever used the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for just pure political reasons. Dagan was exactly right about that. There was no international crisis. There was no, refinery that was blown up. There was no Arab oil embargo. It's just that Biden's policies, remember, Brian, let prices go through the roof. Right. For everything from, food to insurance to gas prices. And so they basically they just flooded the oil market and the gasoline market with that oil that came from the SPR. And as Dagan said, they never refilled it. And so it kind of artificially lowered the price, but now you got to refill it. Are we going to refill it at $75 a barrel? I mean, that's ridiculous. And the price has gone way up in just the last week because of what's going on in the Middle East. So it was incredibly irresponsible financially for Biden to do what he did.
Oil has gone up. It's not yet hit the high. It hit of about $80 a barrel earlier in the year before President Trump was inaugurated. Good thing we have president who stands for energy security and an energy economy in the U.S. However, Steve, the Congress mandates that the oil has to be sold out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, about 100 million barrels over the next 5 fiscal years, to pay for public spending. And so just that alone will continue to shrink what's in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So we will need another $22.5 billion just to refill the reserve on top of what's going to be drained from that. It's just upside down and backwards the way this is handled.
Well, look, I don't want to overemphasize the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. I mean, it's good that we have this sort of safety net in case you have some kind of blow up in the Middle East like we have now. Right. But ultimately, what Joe Biden did that was the most sinister of all, you guys remember what was the first thing he did when he became president? He canceled pipelines. Yep. He destroyed our energy infrastructure. And my point is, if if Trump goes forward with what he wants to do, and our energy secretary is all in on this, produce as much oil and gas as we can here at home in Texas and North Dakota and Oklahoma and these other states, then we're not held hostage anymore to what's happening in the Middle East. That's what's so frustrating. We have more of this stuff than anybody does.
Yeah, drill, baby, drill is your new strategic reserve, I think, the policy of that. Hey, I want to ask you about this, Steve. So I'm trying to follow the immigration raid policy thing going on here. And the other day we were told not going to go after hotel workers and farm workers. We're going to focus on, folks who are most dangerous. Sounds like that policy is kind of maybe reversing again. Steve, sort this out for us. How should the administration be dealing from an economic, political standpoint with the issue of the priority of these deportations?
Well, I think Trump has done it correctly, and I give so much credit to my friend Tom Homan. I think he's been absolutely fantastic as the as the border security czar. He's reduced the illegal crossings by, 92, 93% in just 3 months, something Biden couldn't do in 4 years. I've always believed worst first. Get rid of the worst, the criminals, the drug runners, the people who might be terrorists or a threat to America. Get those people out. And Tom Homan and the border security people have done that. My view is if somebody's in the country and they've been working and they haven't committed any crimes other than coming in across the border illegally, we should have a policy, and I don't know quite how do you do it, but maybe they have to go back and reapply to come in. But, I think Brooke Rollins is right. Our farmers need these agricultural workers. For 100 years, a lot of that work has been done by immigrant labor. So I don't want to see people deported if they're just here to, raise money for their family. But I know it's a very controversial issue, and some people say we'll deport everybody, but I'm not there.
Well, it's a tug of war. Stephen Miller, he's a hardliner, and he seems to be willing because as of right now, the raids on farms and hotels and the like restaurants have been resumed. President Trump, meantime, promised to prioritize the working class, and he did. Blue-collar wage growth is seeing the largest increase in nearly 60 years. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent sharing news on X saying this, quote, real wages for hourly workers are up nearly 2% in the first 5 months of President Trump's second term, the strongest in 6 decades. Steve.
It's amazing.
I know. Incredible.
That didn't take long, did it? He's only been in office for 4 months. And that's because you're seeing businesses. The best way to raise wages is to have businesses reinvest in America, in capital equipment and factories. And that's what's happening. And by the way, you're just seeing the beginning of this, Dagan. I mean, you ain't seen nothing yet. We'll talk a year from now. I'll bet you see wages up 5 or 6%.
Because of the big, beautiful bill.
You got businesses. Yeah, you got businesses that are hiring more workers. They're investing more in America. The factories aren't going overseas. I mean, I just love this picture.
All right, Steve Moore quoting Bachman-Turner Overdrive. You ain't seen nothing yet. Good to see you, though, Steve Moore.
Ain't seen nothing yet, baby.
All right.